Hello, and today I wanted to share about miracles that we experienced as young believers in Jesus. And please understand me, this is not a video to brag. This is something I want to do, first of all, to give God the glory that He deserves, but also to encourage people who might be going through hard times and who might be asking, where is God? Why is He not hearing me? Um, when is He going to answer my prayers? And hopefully, what we experienced as young believers will encourage you and give you something that you could use for yourself. I think I will share the main big miracle. It was the miracle for us was um, a story of my dad's journey in his search for work. When we were living in Ukraine, my father was a professional percussionist in an opera house, in a Kiev state opera house. And when he came to Canada, for various reasons, which I will not go into right now, he did not continue in his profession. Part of it was that it was just very competitive to find a spot as a percussionist in an orchestra in Toronto Symphony or in the Toronto Opera Company because of the nature of the instrument. Because you, in an orchestra, there may be 20, 30, 40, 50 violin players who move around and maybe change their locations. And so there may be some openings, but there's only 2 or 3 percussionists. And so these people hold on to their job. And so it was very difficult for him to find something in his profession. And so he was open to do anything. And he went through the normal, night shifts, factory jobs, and so on and so forth. And he ended up working in a nursing home in the kitchen. And at that time, it was not a bad pay. And I don't remember, to be honest, how much it was, maybe $12, $13 per hour. And in the early 90s, that was not bad. But it was a physical hard work. On top of the fact that it was physically difficult, he had to lift heavy things all the time. He was also washing big pots and trays by hand, and they use chemicals. And so it's a steam bath. Like he was literally standing over steam and scrubbing these pots by hand, and the steam is rising, and he's wearing a hairnet and a beard net, and he is wearing a uniform, and there is no air conditioner, and it's summer, and here in Toronto it could get hot in the summer, mid 30s, and on top of that, the kitchen, the heat in the kitchen, and the heat coming from hot water, and breathing the chemicals, and so he was doing this job. This was kind of the best he was able to get. And I remember that in that time I moved to United States for 6 months. I was involved in a ministry in Indianapolis where they were trying to help the young people. The things that I saw in the United States, I've never seen. The kind of poverty I saw in Indianapolis I've never seen here in Canada. I saw homeless people in Canada, but it was the first time that I saw families living in just terrible conditions with teenage moms whose babies were just dirty, and there were cockroaches crawling all over, and the houses had their windows boarded up, and they looked like and trash lying on the grass in front of the houses, and it's just real miserable kind of conditions. And so I was involved in a ministry that was trying to help these young people who were stuck in this. And so one of the things that was part of the ministry was that every person was supposed to take turns. Every day somebody would wake up earlier than usual, like around 5 in the morning, and we lived in a hotel, and this hotel entirely belonged to the ministry. And on the top floor there was a very nice lounge with beautiful view, and we were supposed to take turns praying for each other and for whichever prayer requests there were. And so there was a box with cards, and people would insert, write their prayer requests on the card, and you prayed for as many as you could, maybe 2 or 3. And we also had a kind of scheduled Bible reading plan, and we could read anything we wanted, but they asked you to read Psalms and Proverbs from the Old Testament, from the Hebrew Bible. And since there are 31 Proverbs, you read a proverb a day, and 2 Psalms a day. And with Psalms, it comes up to 2 Psalms per day. That way you cover the whole book of Psalms in a month and the whole book of Proverbs in a month. And I think a day before it was my turn to go and pray, my mom called me, and she was in tears, and she said that Dad is depressed. He's so depressed because he just feels absolutely hopeless. The work is so hard, and there's absolutely nothing, because he has no education, that he can apply to improve his situation. We don't have a lot of friends in the country that could help, and it just doesn't look like he will break out of this kind of work situation. And I remember coming up at 5 in the morning to that top floor, praying for whatever prayer requests there were. And then as I began to pray for my dad, my heart just broke for him. I felt just so sad for him. It's like I love my dad, and I still love him to pieces. And there was just something so crushing about knowing that he suffers so much. And so I prayed for him just with all that I had in me. And then I went to my Bible reading, and the psalm that came up on that day was Psalm 20. And I will read to you a part of it, because when I read it, my jaw just dropped to the ground. Psalm 20 says, and I'm reading from NIV translation. May the Lord answer you when you are in distress. May the name of God of Jacob protect you. May he send you help from the sanctuary and grant you support from Zion. May he remember all your sacrifices and accept your burnt offerings. May he give you the desire of your heart and make all your plans succeed. And there's a verse a little bit later, verse 6 that says, verse 5, second half, that says, may the Lord grant all your requests. And when I read this, I literally felt like it was God speaking to me and telling me, I heard you. I heard you. I cannot explain it, but I just knew that God heard and that He is going to answer favorably. And it did not look like something that could happen naturally, but about 2 to 3 weeks later, a gentleman from church where we were going to at the time, out of the blue, came up to my dad and got him in touch with a company that was located in downtown Toronto. And it was a foreign exchange company, and they needed drivers who would go and do a courier type of driving for them and go to the banks, visit their clients, work with checks and things. And they trained on a job, and you didn't need any background, any education to do this. And so my dad went for an interview. The boss of the company was a believer in Jesus, a wonderful man. And my father, in one day, literally, went from working in a just really hard conditions to an office in the core downtown Toronto. And some of you will know, those who live in Toronto know the TD Tower in Toronto. And this is like the top. This is the place to be. And so the office of the company was on like, I don't know, 50th floor, somewhere almost at the very top. I don't even remember how many floors there were in that tower, but they were somewhere up there on the top, and you could see Lake Ontario, and it was just beautiful. I went there, and they paid well. They had parties for the workers who were working there. The boss had cottage in Muskoka, and once a year, I believe for Canada Day, he invited all the employees and their families to his cottage, and he just took care of them. He took the kids and he drove them around in his motorboat. You could borrow his Sea-Doo and ride it on the lake. He did fireworks in the evening. I'm talking about like really amazing, great job. And I really, really don't think that in our own strength, no matter how much we would have tried, we would have gotten there. My dad would have gotten there. And it's just the timing of it. It was all just kind of, answer to prayer, really. And my dad worked there for many years, for I think like 20 years, and until he retired pretty much. And so, yeah, that was an incredible answer to prayer. And like I said, this is not to brag, this is not to say that we are special in any way, that we are better than anybody in any way. This is to thank God for his goodness, for his kindness, and to give him glory because he deserves it. Thank you for your time.